Meeting. Okay, I'll call it to order. Do we have approval of agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. All right, public comment? No, we don't have any public really, so it's, you're all employees or something. Okay, action items, number 1.
Okay.
Resolution 01-2020, consider approval of IGA for cyanotoxin testing services.
So I'll give the staff report in Suzanne's absence. She's off enjoying her honeymoon right now, so.
She got married?
Yeah.
Oh, is there no end to what that woman keeps doing?
So wow, that's hard to follow.
I know.
All right. This evening, commissioners, we're asking you to consider approval of resolution 012020. And what it is designed to do is, now that we have a certified lab that's capable of doing cyanotoxin testing, that's kind of a unique feature. And it's something that we've actually been starting to do our compliance sampling with the state of Oregon. However, that's also been something that other water providers and other interested parties have also approached us. The fact that we do have a certified lab, could we be running tests for them? So what this resolution does is it authorizes me to enter into intergovernmental agreements on behalf of the board in order to conduct this water quality lab testing for cyanotoxins. Again, we're certified to do this. The way one of the conditions in the resolutions points out that I need to make sure that we're covering our costs associated with doing this. And the nice thing is we're already doing this compliance sampling for CRW. And so what our intent would be is to coordinate the timing so that we're doing the analysis at the same time that CRW is doing the analysis. And what that enables us to do is kind of take advantage of some economies of scale, run things at one time, and make it more cost effective for everybody. So, if you have any questions about the resolution, we do have, I think I indicated we have had a couple or a few entities approach us. The Willamette Water Supply Program has approached us to do some testing. They'll be doing a water treatment plant on the Willamette and Wilsonville. Also the city of Lake Oswego, which has an intake on the Clackamas River. And then we already do a lot of coordination with Portland General Electric as far as doing some analysis there. So those are the 3 entities so far.
Do we have any concept of what liability we may incur with this test? Bob?
Well, that will be determined to a great extent by the contracts that are entered into. And so I've been working with the general manager and staff to put together contracts that, as best as possible, protect the
Absolve
district.
us. Okay. I have a second question, may I? Will the IGAs likely exceed the general manager's spending authority?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. Both of you.
No, I don't think so.
Tessa? You? I have a question about the fees, where it says, let's go back to the specific, the general manager, for a fee calculated by the general manager to recover at least the actual cost of the services. Now, do we have any idea what those fees are going to be, or are you working on that at the time?
Yeah, we've actually developed a draft fee schedule that would be attached to any agreements. And so it depends on the type of testing. So if it's a routine test like what we're talking about, I think we're at, shoot, I should have that schedule. I think we're at $125 a sample. Then if it's for some reason an emergency sample, then it's a lot more expensive.
So, are these costs that you figured out, is that just the basic cost to cover, or are we making a couple of bucks on the side?
So it's kind of, this is the challenge with trying to, we're running these tests anyway, and they run on plates that there's the opportunity to do more tests than what we're doing.
96 well plates, right?
Yeah, and so what it is what we're doing is putting these samples on an existing plate that we're running. So in essence, we're charging them and covering our costs is one theory.
Okay. Rusty, you have something else?
Nothing more
No?
from me.
Anyone else? Okay, can you call the question?
Well, no, we have to do the move.
Oh.
I move to approve resolution 01-2020 for cytotoxin lab testing agreements.
Second.
Would you call roll, please, Karen?
Commissioner Anger?
Yes.
Commissioner Danell?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Colony?
Yes.
All, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, consider approval of tentative purchase agreement for Beaver Lake Pump Station property. Thank God. Okay, Adam.
Good evening, Commissioners. Allow me to pull this up here real quick on the screen. Same exhibit as is in your packet, but just for the audience benefit and any discussion we might have here to be helpful. This, of course, is the Beaver Lake Pump Station property that we've been successful in negotiating with the Beaver Lake HOA over the past, oh gosh, year and a half plus, I think. We've been working on this with our property consultant and came to an agreeable purchase price with the HOA. They had to take this through a vote of their membership according to their bylaws, and then I'll pass accordingly. I just wanted to point out a couple of things here that there's two parcels of property on this in this parcel. So the overall, turn on my pointer. The overall parcel itself, as it exists today, is this entire shape here. The property line over here is a little hard to see, but that's that over 8.5 acre parcel that is currently owned by the homeowners association. The pump station sub parcel that after we purchase, or as a condition of purchase, we need to take this through the partition application process with the county. That then would create this as an independent parcel of the greater parcel, the greater property, I should say. That's a 1.5 acre parcel, plenty of room for us to construct a pump station, and appurtenances, water mains, whatnot, leading to and from the pump station. What is not included in the purchase, as a reminder to the board, is an easement on the northern boundary. That's this yellow and dashed area on the drawing there. That will be brought back to the board in a separate agreement as part of our standard easement, granted easement documentation, similar to what the board has approved in other easements in the past. So if you're wondering why, that is not included on purpose as part of this purchase agreement. It's just a 1.5 acre property, the blue property. Yes.
Do we have an estimate of the cost of that easement?
We do, yes. I'm gonna have to think about that really quick before I give you an answer.
I just went blank.
Yeah, we do have a negotiated price per square foot, as is common with our easements. The reason we don't show a cost or anything there yet is because both the easement and the property itself, the purchase piece, are being surveyed, so we can't really finalize anything until they're legally surveyed and we actually have a fixed land area. Now, for the purchase property, that $150,000 purchase price is fixed. It's irrespective of how that final survey establishes it. But for the easement, that would be, because it is a cost per square foot, these are estimates. So I'll give you an example. If it were $2 a square foot, which I'm not saying that's the price, because I apologize that I don't have that in front of me.
So
Then
$16,000 to $24,000 approximately.
it would be twice. So one thing to keep in mind about the easement is that there are two easements on this drawing. One is, the yellow is a permanent easement, and that's a 20-foot wide by 825 foot long easement. There's also a temporary easement outside of that, just for the purposes of constructing and maintaining the water main. That typically, and this is standard for our easements, is that we typically agree with property owners that a temporary easement is less value than a permanent easement. So we negotiate a lower price for a temporary easement than we do a permanent easement. So the combined cost of the easement, when you look at permanent plus temporary, would be a combination of the different square footage prices for those. Does that make sense?
So, does that mean a total of about $40,000 for the easement?
It's gonna be 34,800.
Thank you.
Okay.
But we'll true that up when we know after we have the survey.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I hope
have
that answered your question. Sorry,
I
I didn't
have
have
a
a
question.
pricing.
No, that answers my question.
So this is part of Backbone 2, even though we haven't really started to work on that bond, we still have to, we're getting the property in case we get the bond. Is that kind of-
Correct, yeah, as the board had instructed staff to move forward on the property purchases, so we successfully concluded, really for all intents and purposes, of the negotiation of this property. The reason it's a draft agreement is because we do have to complete the survey, put that in Exhibit A and B, survey and legal description for B and C, and we did, and then you'd have a finalized document.
So will that property be worth anything to us if for some reason we didn't do Backbone 2 in the exact same place, or is it just something we have to do so it doesn't really matter?
It could, I mean, you mean if the district wanted to sell the property in the
If
future?
the
or-
district decided to do Backbone 2 in some different configuration, or different,
Yeah, so there are some conditions attached with the purchase agreement, with the HOA, that talk about what we're permitted to build on this property.
okay?
So it does restrict us to, pump station and associated buildings. There are conditions in there about not building like any administrative type facilities or maintenance type
Okay.
facilities. I don't envision us ever needing to do something like that there. So really, for a pump station, this is really the purpose of this.
Are we gonna have to spend a year and a half trying to get the easement set?
No,
What?
so to keep in mind, the negotiation for both the property purchase, the blue piece, and the easements, those are completed
Oh,
for
okay.
the intents and purpose of establishing purchase prices, establishing the terms and conditions of the purchase and the easements.
So we're all good with the homeowners association and they're all happy?
Right, so all we need to do is complete the surveys and finalize the documents.
All right, anything else?
There's another
Oh,
And the temporary easement is for work and staging purposes?
Yes, it would be used for construction, to try to build something in a 20-foot wide easement is difficult, so we typically ask for a wider area, including a temporary area, just for that purpose.
Right.
We don't need it in the long haul, but for purposes of construction, and I believe that's in perpetuity as well, that if we went back and built a larger main there, or did some type of other work, that condition of having a wider area would.
Reestablish that easement?
Yeah, the easement would, yeah, it's gonna hold weight for forever.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Call the question.
No, first we have to do the motion, maybe we'll change the way we do things. We're doing, I move the board accept the real estate purchase agreement from Beaver Lake Owners Association on tax lot 7900, map 32E, 13A, in the amount of $150,000, recognizing the agreement is in its final form, but that Exhibit A will be completed and finalized following a survey of the property, and authorize the general manager to sign the agreement.
Second the motion.
Sharon, would you call roll?
Commissioner Andrew?
Yes?
Commissioner Danell?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I bet you're relieved this is done.
Yes.
Sure you are. Okay, action, where we're at, consent agenda.
Okay. I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second the motion.
I have a question about that. Can we agree to do the 1 and 2, and I'd like to talk about 3 for a minute.
Discussion is open once it's moved and seconded.
So we can talk about 3
So,
before.
yeah, so.
Do that?
I'll let you-
What- The motion on the table is the approval of the entire consent
Okay.
agenda, so you can discuss that, but
Okay.
the pending motion is to approve it all.
Okay, all right. All those in favor? Oh,
Wait a second,
Well,
I
that's
don't want to
wait.
discuss it, go ahead.
3, oh, okay. Well, it's no secret, the one I have a concern about is Lee's invoice. And I realize we're done. Lee has reached, to the point where everything that he can do is completed. And I know that when this was done, normally, as I understand, the invoices go to the general manager or for approval. And this time, it was decided that the board would make it. If I was paying this invoice personally, I wouldn't pay it. It's too vague. And we shouldn't really be doing this to begin with, in my opinion. But, his contract called for, to be specific, who we talked to and what his expenses were and the receipts and stuff. My concern is going forward that we don't do this again. We be a little bit more due diligent. I want to see where the money went, and that's my only thing. Other than that, I mean, we're at the end. Like I said, he has, I think, finished up most of whatever he can do, and, so, and we move on, but let's pay attention going forward that this doesn't happen again. Pay more attention. Okay,
Here, here.
all done with.
So did you want to do a voice or just do it by acclamation?
Okay, all those
We
in
call
favor?
the question.
Call the question.
I'll call the question.
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner Anger?
Yes.
Commissioner Danell?
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Colon?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Information reports, debt covenant compliance reporting for fiscal year 2019. Ms. Carroll, you're up.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm happy to report to you that for fiscal year 2019, we easily met our debt covenants. I don't really have to do a presentation to you every year. I could just send you this letter, but I like to come provide you with an opportunity to ask questions and just to present the report to you. As you can see, we need to have 100% coverage if we do not include system development charges, and we have 377% coverage. We need 125% when we do include system development charges, and we came in at 434%.
Wow.
This is based on unaudited financial statements, so we're still moving a few things around, but there's not very much significant. I don't anticipate much change in this between now and when we have the final financials. And this is something that we look at every year. I present this to you by September 30th, and we also look at this and calculate these numbers when we put together a budget to make sure that the budget that we're presenting to the budget committee and to the board will meet the debt covenant requirements. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Anyone has any questions, discussion?
So with our bond obligations, we have paid off everything except the latest bond, which will go on.
We still have 2 more principal payments on the 2009 refunding bond. So that will be this November and next November. And then we will just have the 2016 bonds that were issued for the backbone projects.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay.
And, thank you.
Thank you.
Carol?
Good job.
Okay. Now, management report, Todd.
All right, couple of things I want to point out, it's a little different. One, you don't have a monthly report this month. This meeting's a lot earlier in the month than normal, and so our plan would be that you will be sent the monthly report by email, and then we also post it on our website, and so it's available to the public as well. So we're still collecting the information, so you should receive that next week, which would be our more typical meeting schedule. But with that, I do want to point out, we do continually track river flows. That's one of the items, the charts that's included in the monthly report, and we're still looking real good as it relates to river flows. One thing I will point out, that September 15th is a significant date as it relates to our water management and conservation plan, because our minimum flow requirements actually bump up on September 15th, so it jumps up to 750 CFS. But right now we're running about.
Bumps up to 750?
Right. As part of our, so we want to make sure we're staying above that 750 mark. Right now we're running, I think today we're running about 910, so we're well above that mark. So that's all good news. You do in your folder though have a copy of the Backbone quarterly report, and I thought this might be a helpful document based on our discussion at the last meeting where we talked about Backbone financial reporting. To just illustrate, this is actually something that's done more internally for us to track the project, and something that Adam puts a lot of time and effort into, and Carol and I do review, and Carol works, helps with Adam with the numbers and so on. So again, as a follow-up to the discussion, I just thought it might be helpful for the board to be aware of kind of the documentation that we're using for the Backbone project, to make sure we're tracking how they're progressing. This is, I do want to caution, this is not something we do for every project. This one obviously had some significant complexities, given the fact that there's a lot of projects that are intertied, or require work for each of them, and interdependencies to make sure that they work. So for this instance, we did create a higher threshold of internal reporting. You'll note on the beginning, this is report number 13, so this has actually been going on a while, but again, given the discussion at the last board meeting, I thought it'd be work session, I thought it'd be helpful for you to be aware of the fact that we are doing this internal tracking as well. I will point out the information that's in this report. This is all information that is also, not all, the highlights of these reports is given as information that Adam will present and Carol will present as part of the quarterly reports as well. So there's nothing really new in these reports. It's just probably a little bit more detail than you're used to. So just doing it for creating an awareness. It's not one of those things where we're planning on inundating you with paper, but just wanted you to be aware that that's some additional reporting that we do internally. As for the written management report, some things I just want to bring to your attention. The Regional Water Providers Consortium, one thing that's not noted in the write-up here is that on September 26th, there's going to be an emergency equipment drill, and that'll be right here at Riverside Park. So this is where we take out the water distribution trailers and hook up some of our the water treatment, mobile water treatment units, and different water providers will bring their devices or their units as well, and so we'll get a chance to practice with those, get some new staff who haven't had a chance to deploy those, get some experience with that. We are actually, they are designing it so that if elected officials want to come and observe for a portion of that, you're welcome to do that. There will be a lunch, and so we can get you registered. If you want to join for lunch and kind of watch the deployment for a little bit, that would be something that we can make happen. It'll be on September 26th. It's here at Riverside Park, so they're using our park for this drill. Don is one of the coordinators for that, and so as he pulls together some additional information, we'll get that sent out to you here in the next week or two on details. Try to be, it's actually a much longer event. It's an actual training event, but obviously we're not expecting you to be at the whole thing. But we'll try to focus your time on what would be helpful. Also wanted to point out, in your packet is a flyer with additional information on the We Love Clean Rivers cleanup. So that will be taking place actually this Sunday, September 8th. So if you're interested in participating, you do need to register for that because there's a waiver involved and so on. So, but great events, a lot of fun.
Where's the barbecue being held?
It's not, I think it's at Barton Park.
Bart?
I'm not, let's see, I thought it said.
That's where it's been.
If you register, you'll get that information, how's that?
Ah.
Maybe that's their trick. I'll be darned, I'll put it there.
And to register, we go where?
Oh, the link is just to register here.
WeLoveCleanRivers.org.
Oh, yeah, the printout, yes.
Yes, so.
I got it.
Yeah, so if you,
WeLoveCleanRivers.org.
yep, if you go to that link, it'll drive you to that, so.
Okay.
Do we have a boat?
Do we have a boat?
Yeah, a raft.
No.
I've got a 17-foot
Should get-
Scott
We
canoe.
can go down the river all together.
So,
Whole
yeah, you
raft
don't
of
have to,
commissioners
yeah.
and staff.
Yeah, watch somebody shoot us all.
I've done it before. I
That's
pulled a
a-
tire out one
We
year.
wanna make sure there's no
Really?
quorum in the boat or anything like that. No, so a lot of it's, on the bank, you know, you don't have to have a boat. So a lot of it's, picking up, trash and stuff along the river. Actually, Riverside Park is one of the final sites where we have a large dumpster, and so my duty last year was to organize the dumpster and kind of put recycling in one spot and trash in another. And
So we can do any part of the river.
on the registration, that'll give you a whole slew of different options. So whatever you're comfortable, whatever your timing works.
Oh yeah,
Make
it's
it
got
pretty
4
easy.
launch sites, McIver, Barton, Riverside, and Carver.
Yep.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Great, fun event. So if you do it, let us know. That's obviously stuff we like to recognize as well. I'm gonna skip over to item number 3, the public employee retirement system. So we did go ahead and use the savings that we had from the transitional, the $25,000, and that opportunity to put money in that side account opened up on the 3rd. Carol did it. Man, it's quick. It's amazing how quickly they take your
Got a
money
response
and
back?
respond.
Thank you, you've been approved.
So
It's
your
like paying your water bill.
your $25,000, yeah, there you go. Your $25,000 contribution, they then matched it with 25%, and so 31,600, 250. I think I do my math. Has actually been, yeah, 31,250 has been credited towards our unfunded actuarial liabilities.
Wow, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, so that helps. Unfortunately, that's, in the big scheme of things, it's a little bit of money, but every little bit helps, so.
Oh, yeah.
Then I do want to point out, you know, we already talked about the water quality lab, but we are doing our compliance testing, and so that's great. So I want to point that out in item 4. And then item 5, I just want to make sure, there's a lot of dates here that I want to make sure we're aware of. First off, I'm going to be out of the office and actually out of the country from September 9th through the 23rd. So Carol will be serving in my capacity during that time. So if there's any questions or anything, please coordinate with Karen and Carol on that, and they can get back to you with information. They also know how to get a hold of me through that process. I got it set up where I get text messages, but a little time difference, so I may not respond real quick. Also, just note, the September agenda setting meeting scheduled for September 26th at 4 p.m. And so that's with Commissioner French and Commissioner Garrison. You're going to be filling in for Commissioner Andrew at that meeting as the treasurer. Then, reminder, we do not have a board work session in September. And then when you were earlier talking about the Regional Water Providers Consortium board meeting, and so that's going to be held on Wednesday, October 2nd. And so we'll coordinate with you, Commissioner Donnell, as far as making sure you have the packet of information. And I'll go over that with you beforehand. And then also, another watershed opportunity. So the Clackamas River Water Providers every year puts on a watershed tour, and they alternate between the upper watershed and the lower watershed. And so this next tour, which will be held on Saturday, October 5th, will focus on the upper watershed. And so you will be receiving an invitation soon, probably this next week, I'm guessing. That will give you a little bit more detailed information. It is a full day,
Yes.
especially the upper watershed ones take a full day. So it's not a quick trip and you're gonna spend some time on a bus, but you do get to get out. And I find it very informative and enjoyable.
It's,
you know.
it's worthwhile, I've done it. So
Is it where your hiking boots kind of a
Yeah,
tour?
you wanna be, you wanna be comfortable, because you may, I mean, I haven't seen the itinerary yet, but maybe trouncing around in the forest a little bit.
Okay.
And it's gonna be raining, so.
Oh, so my galoshes.
So, look for that, that's something that, there'll be an opportunity to register directly with the CRW, the Clackamas River Developers on that as well, so.
I've done upper and lower, so I don't need to do anymore.
That's for Commissioner Garrison.
Yeah, in item 2, you mentioned that the economy is being too slow, show cracks, particularly bond market. A weekend bond market, what does that mean for CRW and Backbone 2 project if we go out for bonds? Is that a benefit to us or not?
That's a good question that I would defer
It
to.
depends.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great answer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you be a little bit more specific?
Realistically, so you gotta keep in mind, this is information that's provided by the state economist and as part of the quarterly report that they provide to the state legislature and so on. So this is kind of a summary of that information as put together by the Special Districts Association
Okay.
lobbyist, governmental affairs person. As we get closer, I mean, in reality, we bring in, the bond folks to help kind of walk us through that process. Again, I'd get nervous on trying to prognosticate stuff right at this point.
Potentially if,
Prognostication is not my strong suit either.
potentially if fewer agencies are putting bonds out there and there is still an appetite for bonds, then we could get premiums on the bonds that we issue.
Okay.
And, and then what the interest rate does at the same time. So if that lowers the interest rate, then we can also be paying less. But if they increase the interest rate, which is, some people are considering that coming up, maybe one more drop and then going back up. So that could also impact the rates that we pay.
So would you say we would realize likely the lowest rates if there was one more drop in interest rates before a bump?
Potentially.
Potentially. I'll take that as good, thank you.
Tough one.
Don't go to the bank on that.
I know better than that.
So one last item that I have that's not on the, not included in the report, but, because the meeting happened after the report had to be submitted, is the most recent Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission meeting. 3 of you were at that meeting, so you could augment to what I'm about to share. But I just want to spend a moment to update the board on what happened there. First off, there was election of officers, and so even though Chris Hawes showed up on time, he still got selected as chair.
Congratulations.
Commissioner French was vice chair, Gary Barth was Sunrise, was selected as secretary, and then Commissioner Andrew was selected as treasurer. So that was one of the processes that had to be done. Also, the audit letter, so there was a acknowledgement, CRWSC board acknowledged the receipt of the engagement letter for the auditors, which is why I know Commissioner Kalani.
I got one.
Okay, so
I
all of
already
you,
sent it in.
perfect, so, which is why the 3 of you have received the letter then, the follow-up letter from the auditor for the commission. And thank you for submitting that information. But then most of the discussion centered around the purpose and future of the CRWSC. And so some of the topics that were covered was, the original purpose of that organization and why it was developed. And then included as part of that was a discussion about the settlement agreement with Oregon City and South Fork Water Board, and how that worked as it related to CRW's boundary issues, particularly with Oregon City. In the end, the CRWSC did make a motion, the board made a motion, stating that it was a recommendation of the CRWSC board to its member agencies, the CRW proceed with a discussion of a potential supply agreement directly with the North Clackamas County Water Commission. And so the way that works, if you remember from our work session, is one of the questions we had was, you know, there's an interest in doing a water supply agreement. The Clackamas Regional Water Supply Commission has a mechanism for us to do that. And so it'd be a supply agreement in essence with Sunrise Water Authority. Or we have a current agreement right now with the North Clackamas County Water Commission. And that's how we sell our, on average, 2.5 million gallons a day to the NCCWC, which then they have assigned that capacity over to Sunrise Water Authority. And so one of the questions that we didn't have the answer to at that point of our last work session was, who do we talk to about a water supply agreement? And so that was most of the discussion at the meeting. So with this recommendation, that now kind of kicks it back to CRW and Sunrise Water Authority's respective boards to have that discussion about, okay, how does that work and what does that look like? And so what we will be doing is I'll work with the agenda setting committee to get this scheduled for a work session in the future so we can have kind of a more detailed discussion about, okay, what are the things we want to make sure are addressed in a water supply agreement, and are we supportive of moving forward with an agreement as part of, or with NCCWC, and then also that I think helps give us some additional clarity as it relates to, okay, what is, if we're gonna have a water supply agreement with NCCWC, then what is the purpose or function of the CRWSC, and is that something that's still needed or not? So, those are all kind of questions
So,
for the board.
I have a question, so we're gonna have a future work session to discuss it, so do we also have to have it come back to a regular meeting where this board would vote on something and then go to the CRWSC where we would vote on it? Is that kind of the procedure?
Yeah, so we're not gonna make any, we can't,
I know you
any
can't do a work
agreements
session.
would have to be done in a board meeting.
Right.
So I would assume that it's gonna go back to the CRWSC to make sure that everybody's, you know, reports back to what everybody's comfort level is. And then hopefully from there, there's direction then that we.
So the only thing that we have to do at a regular board meeting for CRW is once it's gone through the CRWSC. So we have a work session, then it goes to, they have a work session, Sunrise, then it goes to CRWSC
Right, in December, yeah.
in December, and then we approve it at a regular meeting.
Yeah, and then so we probably won't have and then frankly, once the CRWSC board meeting happens in December, then that gives the marching orders to then go work on the agreement with NCCWC, because we develop
Don't we
an
have to
agreement.
have that done by
Okay.
December something?
No,
If we do another agreement?
no. Oh, no, I'm,
Okay.
one second. So our NCCWC agreements, they just have to notify us in December, are we going to change any of that
Okay.
agreement or not, which I'm presuming that's an NCCWC thing. Our agreement actually goes for 2 more years.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, Commissioner.
Does everyone have a copy of the agreement we have with Sunrise?
The CRWSC agreement?
Yeah, he gave it out last time,
Yeah.
yeah.
You should, if you don't holler, we'll
I
make
think
sure
it
you
was in
have
the
that.
packet last.
It was in the packet last.
At the work session.
It was, yeah.
But, no, I gotta make sure
Wasn't
Or-
that,
the.
I
the
remember
CRWSC
reading about
was
what
in
it
the
is,
packet
why
last
it's
time.
there,
right.
and then we
So-
talked
You
about
had the
making a
fact
decision.
sheet, you had
You
a
have a
fact
fact sheet.
Okay,
sheet, but then.
not the full agreement that he.
So you should have it in, I know you and you have it in your board notebooks,
Oh, in
because
my
you went
book,
through your
okay.
board orientation. if you don't have those, holler and we'll make sure. It's easy for us to get it to you again, but very.
Well, then ultimately, that agreement will be taken out.
That's definitely one of the options.
Superseded.
Yeah. And I think one of the, and I'll let the three commissioners who were at the meeting, but that was one of the discussion points as far as the timing. How would this work? Do you dissolve the CRWC simultaneously with entering into an agreement with the NCCWC? And again, these are all details that will need to be figured out. I pretty much at the CRWSC meeting, the decision that yes, you know, we want the respective bodies to look at doing this through the NCCWC. That's the first time that definitive decision has been made. And so that kind of gives us some direction to start moving forward on. But what the actual steps and process, I'll be honest, we need to probably put some more thought into that.
Now, we don't have any set date for when the board is gonna meet to discuss this. Is that
No, I'll
correct?
work with the agenda setting committee to do that. But we'll try to do that sooner,
And we have the CRWSC meeting in December,
December.
yeah.
So we'll
So
try to
it
make
has
sure
to
that
be-
happens before.
It should be before December.
That's
then.
right,
Yeah.
I think so.
And that's what I'll work with the agenda setting committee on. But that would make sense. So I don't know if there's any other observations from that meeting.
I think you covered it.
Then that concludes all the items I was going to cover.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay, Commissioner Business. Trustee? Hello? No?
I have nothing. I know nothing.
You know nothing. Naomi?
I don't think I've been to any particular meetings, no.
Hey, Tessa?
I don't think I have any business.
Mr. Kalani?
No, what I had on mind, we discussed it already.
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, I guess I'm the only one that goes anywhere.
Move to adjourn.
Well, no,
No, she's got the
sunrise.
Oh.
And I catch,
Don't you go?
when I show up at a meeting, and why didn't you say something?
I meant to go there, but I was traveling.
Oh,
Sunrise had an interesting, I mean, they had quite a big meeting. They did get to swear in Andy Coates as commissioner. And they are, you know, they've got a bunch of water mains and related facilities going in. They're pretty busy. Well, they have that agenda, not us. And then, oh gosh. Where's my notes? They had an interesting lady that did show up, and I, you know, I felt for her because she was retired. Prices are going up, wanted help with her water bill. That was her concern. And so, you know, it's sad to have to say that, and I'm kind of glad it was them and not us, because I would have had a hard time trying to talk to this lady. I mean, I felt bad for her, because I know what it's like, you know. But, you know, Oak Lodge has their situation set up, they do that. We go through, St. Vincent de Paul?
St. Vincent de Paul.
You know, to go through, and I'm all in favor of helping out the senior citizens, but, I felt kind of sorry for her, but she stayed and listened to, I had to laugh, because she stayed, and she asked, who's the engineer, Tom? Tim, okay. She was sitting next to him, and he was like treating her like his grandmother, you know? And they were sitting there eating, and he's just like, you know, sitting like this and talking to her and just, you know, explaining things. It was really neat, it was neat to watch him. He was like, you know, like a little kid talking to grandma, and whatnot. But he, you know, and he explained things to her as things went on, and then she asked me, she said, can I stay? He goes, yeah, you can stay as long as you want. She says, well, I'd kind of like to know what they do. So, you know, and she sat there and, you know, I was really interested because she'd ask him questions and he'd answer. And when she went to leave, she did say, you know, she said, wow, she says, I didn't realize there was all this, you know. And it was kind of interesting to see that if the public would show up once in a while and would see what's going on, you know, I think it would make for a better day. The one thing that they did talk about, and I don't think we've ever discussed it, is an emergency plan if Todd decided not to come back from wherever he's going on his vacation. Or if something happened, or if something happened and he was unable to carry out his duties, who would be in charge, you know, and
I was gonna say, where'd Tom go?
By the camera.
Yeah, we actually have a continuity of operations plan.
Yeah, and within the plan, there's a delegation of authority. There's actually two. For administrative duties, Carol, there's 3 people in a line behind Todd that will assume his duties. If it's an emergency situation, we also have 3 people, that myself taking over as incident commander and making sure that we keep delivering water if possible.
okay, so you, Carol, and
Adam is in that
Adam.
chain. We just updated it not too
Okay.
long ago.
so
So,
we'd never talked about that, and I was like, oh, well, that would be good to know.
Now we know.
Now we know, you know,
Yeah.
so, anyway, and that was it, and, you know, and they, of course, had great food as usual.
Yeah,
Oh, they had food at
I'm gonna
They
say,
feed you at their meetings, that's why I go. You know, Ernie, he was reading off the list of the liaisons for different things, and he says, well, and Sherry's gonna be with us with Sunrise. I said, yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go, I like the food.
Well, they don't get a,
They don't get a stipend.
they don't get a stipend,
Yeah,
so the food is instead of the stipend.
but I like to give them that time, because I like the food.
I think that's
We go to eat.
Say-
Rusty?
Yeah, so, do any service providers have a senior citizens rate, or no?
Oak Lodge has a, what do you say, what Paul said, I forget how many $1,000, like in a pot, and then you go in and you have to apply for it, and there is criteria involved, you know. And if you
So
meet
it's
the
like an
criteria-
offset or just
It's-
available?
Yeah, so a lot of times they, as, yeah, Carol, come on up. So just like we use St. Vincent de Paul as an agency that can help kind of do that testing to determine if someone's in need, and then we actually contribute money to them to allocate, to help out with the water bill. So you'll see a lot of different water providers will use different formats. I'm not familiar with what Oak Lodge does, as far as who they use or if
They have their own funds, but according to Paul, it's, you have to apply for it, and then they follow the, I wanna say like the Energy Trust of Oregon criteria.
So one of the
that kind
nice
stuff,
things,
so-
one of the nice things with St. Vincent de Paul, why it's a great partnership, is because of the fact that, let's face it, we're not in the business of knowing
Right,
what somebody's situation is from the first. These are folks that this is their job, that they trained and they're able to do that. And then they also are able to identify other resources that folks might need as well, so.
So in discussion with my staff, I mean, I hear them on the phone every day. They're going to be a lot more sympathetic to somebody that is more soft-spoken and saying, I really need help, rather than somebody that calls up and starts yelling
Your
about
bill's
how
too
high
damn high,
the
you better
water
pay
bill
half.
is. And I don't want my staff to be in that position to make a decision that they're gonna help, you know, the nice little old lady, but they're not gonna help somebody else. So in our budget process, we have included in this biennium and the previous biennium, $5,000 a year, and we just write that check to St. Vincent de Paul, and they agreed to apply that to pay water bills for COW customers. They also have available resources for other things. So once they start talking to our customers and find out what their other needs are, they can kind of guide them to get perhaps some other help.
That's excellent.
Rusty?
Yeah, a couple questions come to me out of that, because regardless of whether somebody might be soft-spoken or assertive or aggressive, what relief do seniors receive? And what percentage of seniors do we have in our service program? And what relief does that particular population receive? Does the $5,000 that we provide to St. Vincent de Paul provide a significant relief or not?
The $5,000 in fiscal 19, we actually used it up right around June 27th. The last bit of that went to a customer. It's not earmarked for seniors. It's earmarked for people that cannot pay their bill. So sometimes it's a single mother, sometimes it's a senior. And what we do when somebody calls us prior to being shut off is we will refer them, and there's a certain person at St. Vincent de Paul, we give them that direct phone number. They're able to call that number, they can assess from the questions that they ask them if they would qualify for help. And we do try to have the money spread as far as possible. People can only get assistance from St. Vincent de Paul out of our bucket once a year. Again, St. Vincent de Paul has other buckets of money that they use to help people, whether it's, you know, rent or utility bills, and it could be other utility bills. And so our customers are now also kind of connected with them, and they can ask for other help or other resources. They also refer them to other churches that have money available. So we have had some customers that were kind of in a string of hard times that got money out of our $5,000 bucket, and then 2 months later, or 4 months later, or 6 months later, got money from some other resource that wasn't related to us, but it still enabled them to pay their water bill.
I think the hard question remains, there is perhaps an identifiable need for relief from their water bill by our customers, and what percentage of that need do we meet?
In other words, do you think the $5,000 is enough? Is that what you're saying? That we put in?
Is it a drop in the bucket, or does it meet
Oh,
30, 40, 50, 60% of the need?
We have some people that won't even let us know that. You know, they come up with their own way to solve their problem. We do also refer people to the county 211 number, which doesn't pay water bills, but it'll help them with their electric bill, it'll help them with rent, it'll get them connected with the food banks and all these other resources. So we do have some resources at our fingertips, and we will try to share that with customers if we get the sense or understand that they're having some financial difficulties. Sometimes they get those help from the other resources, which frees up money so that they can pay their water bill.
Okay, well, I think one thing that might indicate to us where we are on this is the number, or maybe better, the percentage of services which we cut off for non-payment. Is that steady, going down, going up?
So in your monthly report, we actually provide you with shut-off statistics. And you can see there, I mean, there's a trend.
From that report, it seems to be pretty steady.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And frankly, what we've noticed recently, which I think is kind of odd, is we send a bill, we send a late notice, we make a phone call, and sometimes we make a second phone call before we shut somebody off. And then somebody gets shut off and they call us up and go, oh, how much do I have to pay? And they pay the bill, which will often include, it'll include the $40 shut-off fee. It might include an addition to their deposit. And I'm thinking to myself, if you could pay it today, why couldn't you pay it yesterday? Or why couldn't you call us a week ago and say, I can't pay it until this day? And we would put a delay. I'm not in the business of shutting people's water off.
right.
So they're just testing the system.
Sometimes they put it off as long as you want to. I mean, I get my water bill and I shut it because.
I've been there in my student days.
Yeah.
So I think the direct answer is the only way that we know about people requesting assistance or people that we're referring to these programs, because they've identified that as an issue. And so then that, and as Carol pointed out, the board through the budget process has allocated $5,000 a year that we put towards that. We were, you know, seemed like we're hitting it at this point. We haven't asked you for more.
The prior 2 years, we still had like $500 or $600 left at the end of
Oh,
the year.
okay.
So this
So
year.
I think the
we
direct
ran out.
answer is, I think, as best we know, yes. I think
We're meeting it.
we're
Bottom
meeting it.
line, that seems to be working.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a great concept, where you're not just giving, you know, a water bill payment, you're not just helping them one time, but you're assisting them with what the problem is, to help with the entire problem. I think that's really wonderful.
Root cause.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's,
I think in
Well
the
done.
management report last month or the month before, we also met with Clackamas County, where they have services for seniors and disabled. And we can refer people that we talk to those services at the county. And it can be anything, and it's not even means tested, but if we're talking to somebody who has always been like on top of it, and all of a sudden things seem weird, we can ask them, would it be okay if I referred you to these county services? Somebody can come and talk to you and see what kind of assistance you need to stay in your home. So, because my staff talks to these customers every day, or, you know, every other month when they call, my staff knows a lot of the customers pretty well.
Oh, okay,
do you have notes in, do you have a place that you can put notes in the system too?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good.
right.
Funny, all I got was a shut-off notice, and I didn't even know I got a bill.
You didn't call and talk to the staff?
I didn't even know I got the bill.
That's why I set
I was
myself
like,
up on auto pay.
I know, oh my gosh. No, I found it my son's mail, so, thanks, Carol.
Okay, so now can I move
Well, you can move wherever you want.
to adjourn?
Okay. Fine.
So moved.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Anything else? Okay, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.